it's not true, 'cause it's all in my head, all in my head. Share my thoughts, see my world. I can't describe how I miss you, girl. If life goes on, I will wait until the time you reawake. Every day I walk alone, I see myself on the grand old throne. But it's not true, 'cause it's all in my head, all in my head. Share my thoughts, see my world. I can't describe how I miss you, girl. If life goes on, I will wait until the time you reawake.
Good afternoon, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Unfortunately, some bits of the map have been broken for a bit now, and I do want to get that settled so it's not on my mind. Let's see. I think the only super visible thing, and I have to get more precise on some of the other stuff, is that there are no arcs. This is probably going back to our cutoff horizon, is what the time it's currently showing is. So this thing is doing a complete rebuild of history, and history got dramatically truncated, so that's not available. I think the servers can still go back because they're based on life logs. And the things that are getting marked as root times aren't... I think that would only affect time replay in those segments. But I'd have to look that up and cross-reference things to prove it. So I'm just going to try and fix it. We've got a couple of things going on there. It's going well. I almost feel like I kind of spent the first week just kind of catching up and just maybe a little bit not doing things. Like worky things. And all the election research stuff. And to a certain extent, there was, I guess, in part of not trying to do anything, I've just been still watching all of the other streams which are on their schedules, and now I've got an appointment with the oral surgeon on Thursday. That's just an examination to prepare for other stuff, but it's still an appointment that I have to be mindful of. So we've got a couple of things going on. One is that we started doing something else, which is not yet complete, and then this broke. So I need to redo my branches here, and I will have to figure out the merge. Okay, so that was the last deployed version. So that actually gives me a convenient hook back to, yeah, before the, actually, that is just before the most recent stuff. So this needs to be... there's going to be a new branch. Then what I do have to look up is how do we reposition a branch. I have a different GUI on my Mac where you can just drag the branches around, and that's pretty nice. Get reset hard. Reflog is something I've not gotten into deeply. This seems more like what I was going for. Bare repositories. New file in a Git directory. Git branch -f. How to remember and more dangerous. Did not append reflog. Tags, yeah. Refs, they're not branches. Does anyone have a comment about that? Arbitrary refs. I say I do a separate answer. 99% case to the documentation. Current branch, yeah, so we already fixed that by changing to the new one. Oh. Well, I guess I'm already running the database container. But the database is all set up for the old version. Well, that was the point where I restored the other backup. So if I need to do database stuff, and I think I do for the files, which I did a re-import, so it's actually not going to have any of that stuff if I'm running it off of this version of the update. I wonder if that'll matter. I've only got my other local one. All right, so we've got that problem, and this is, I don't know if I want to say it's one of the reasons I don't like using a database for this. By the way, if I had a set of files, I'd have a similar problem to database. But yeah, this version of the database, well, I guess it won't be interfacing with the life tables, so it might not notice that it doesn't work. I do not have a set of previously processed files there, though. Branch name. And that's new ref, so I could probably actually use Heroku Master for that. Except I didn't want it to track. So I should have used a raw commit for that part of it. No, no. 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 That's not what I wanted. That took a file. Unset upstream. All right, so from here, although it'll probably end up becoming master, but since we messed this up once, what are we going to call this? Truncated history. All right, let's get some comparison points. So I think I was doing... Yeah, I had stuff from here. That's a very old one. I don't want to deal with having to overwrite it. This will be a get. So this will be parallels of PL17 seeds.json spans.json. The manual reset shouldn't have changed. The processed files, we want to be able to check. All right. So seeds, I know, is completely broken. This used to have a lot more stuff in it, and the local one here should have a lot more stuff in it. So this is what's this is why the ARC stuff is all busted up. Spans, I think, is the one that's getting damaged daily. So those were the initial rift times, and then about 2 weeks back, we start getting base zeros as the event horizon occurs on each one. Huh, we actually managed to skip one there. Interesting. These are probably fine, and these are one of the major sources of have we actually done it. I don't think we keep root seed stuff here. Okay, you've got base time. I may have to revisit these. Well, base time and root time. Depends on how these get processed. Base, 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 base. Yeah. Looks like these might have gotten messed up too. Well, I'm not seeing that skip. Fortunately, I don't think I read any data, but that's going to mess up the animation positions. And we can compare that to Let's see, this is key place. Yeah, I'm not seeing a recent run of zeros here. 16023078551. Oh, that must be the time processed. And that will actually be different. Okay, so there's the file. Yeah, so I actually have base times here. Oh, that is a self base time. Oh, Okay, that just has similar last digits because that's how those go. Yeah, so different time. That's the file. Process at different time, different. Yeah, this one rewrote it as itself. Whereas this actually knows where it came from, and that should be the same for all of these consecutively, whereas these are getting rewritten. So this might have to be a little bit of manual patch up or some sort of big rewrite. So I need to figure out some way to set up a test for this. I guess I'm going to have to cut it off from actually writing out new files. I'm going to need some sort of environment where I put aside my actual files, make sure it doesn't do any significant data processing, and then see if I can set up a map cache store that looks similar to the online one, just so we're not hitting the network all the time. Actually, maybe turn off all writing to files for a little bit. Just get it to process that, and then see if we can figure out a way to have it take a good file after we've repaired it and work forward. So I need to remember how all this process works. So these were actually pretty recent and around this time. I think this is another good place to make copies. Oops. I made way too many of those. And for the most part, that should be sufficient. I don't think we'll actually need to do any processing here. And actually this may actually touch some stuff in the library. Let me just double check this is all up to date for our current version. My local processing is usually done through there, which might be a little bit different from the online one. I actually have to check if I'm even still using the database for the file stuff there. And I might also be able to prove some stuff out here. So what is our update tasks doing for our online version? We closed all VIMs. Map logs, that's lib. That's gonna be the bulk of the code. Let's just check. So load cache. So test is indeed from files. Local output dir. And how does that compare? No, this is actually, this is definitely still an import. File system, file system. Is it lifelog file? Yeah. Okay, no reference to that. That's going to be pretty similar to the script I'm running. So it's going to load the collection of all the files we've got, and that's what's going to come up with less stuff. Load cache, so that is getting map cache, map log server, servers. Okay, so that's going to be the PL, that's going to be our raw files. All right, that's a support file it needs. That is for sizing purposes. Load server, and that's the entire thing there. So that is a per server, which there's only one server. Got the object, it got, that's the things in the collection, file systems where we're writing stuff to. Yeah, placement path, map log path. Those used to be separate, and then I put them together. Output final placements. Output map log. Okay, so I created that object. I think that's going to give me references to the spans files and things. Manual resets, yeah. So this is one of the things we're going to need to be working on. Because this no longer has a complete history. And that is only using the raw logs and the manual resets to completely rebuild from scratch, which is not going to work anymore. I did it that way so that I could change the algorithm and you could get different results. We require the memory, however. Log file context, so that's going to take the entire list of seeds, and that's going to help with assigning stuff to it. Context.update with the new file. Right, I actually had hooks in here to not process these. So at some point I need to go deeper into those to determine what it's going to do. Let's see, we had damage to spans. And I forget who manages spans. And we had damage to, see, I closed that. I need to have two of these. Nope. Oh yeah, because I had the older copy. Okay, so map log. Yeah, map logs are context independent. It's just a list of changes. Key place is not context. But that uses the span information. Because these might have to be reprocessed if their base information changes. But I didn't see it get reprocessed, though. I didn't notice it get reprocessed. Probably because I'm not expecting that to happen. I might need to be mindful of if that did get reprocessed to make sure it would happen again. To go the other way. Now, if that's processed key place, that's probably going to be an output key place. All right, so so many things going on. We've got there, we've got here, which is the library we use. That process is probably look very similar to that. Except I've got some hard-coded things in there. Yeah, very similar. All right, so for now, we just need to figure out a method to get our seed history correct. So this, I'm not going to do any significant processing. It's just going to do all that stuff, which is noisy, but we're actually looking at it right now. Maybe I need to turn that off long term. This looks far enough to be an actual root. Now you are seeing this because we have the entire history. I'm also saving this right now. So that's just seeds.save. And that's not involved in the printing. Okay. Now that we should not be writing anything, we need to prepare a fake history to work with. And let's see exactly where our cutoff is. Although I guess having an even shorter cutoff than the real one would serve. So right now we're back to 115335. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to copy that entire thing. Oh, does this need to match the server name for what we're doing? Output, file system local. Maplog cache servers. Do you have a default path? Relative path cache map. And then in that, dir.match1hour1life.com. So this can be initialized with a different cache path. To set that up, what I would actually want to do. Do you do index at all? No. This one does not use the index. I think the live server one does. Maybe I could set this up to be like a fake server. Just have to have some of the same data. Then it would write everything somewhere different. But this is what we're actually trying to fix. All right, so in our real version, we've got our most recent, which one would we say it was? Um, 1533. Oops. That to be a shift. I don't think we need the index for our local file. All right, so you're expecting that in an initialize, and it's passing that around. So logs, initialize, which I think passes that down. So map process, servers.new. Is that what that was? Servers, update, map log cache, map process. Okay, we ended up over here. Map log cache servers dot new, no parameters. So it was cache map. All right, so that got us a very truncated history. And it's saying this thing is root, which it is not root. In the old system, yes. All right, so we have a simulation of what is happening. So what does a complete seed file look like? Assuming we went and restored one. Start and seed, seed B. Would I ever, well, if I did some kind of bug fixing reprocessing, I might need to remove one of these. We might have a bad value. Well, I'll just, yeah, this has that time in it. But I'll probably like wholesale replace this one because it's kind of a total loss. So I could use this. This structure is not set up to be easily indexed for replacement, but we could index it after loading it. So seed break has manual resets right now. Also, that's the only source of seeds, I think. Another thing I might want to do while I'm working on this is the manual resets right now require the exact, it's either second or millisecond. I think it might just be second for these. The reset occurred, which we don't know at the time we find out that a reset occurred. So in the processing of manual resets, I might want to give it, you know, a minute or two of fudge or something. That'll actually have something to do with we know the last time of the previous log. We don't know the start time of the next log. So those times are things we might be able to find some way to examine and see what the typical restart time is. So if it has placements, which means it's not itself a seed, seed only, Right, and some of the old files which had a seed also might also do it. All right, is there anything else here? Log file to see. No, this is really just one big function that we just kind of pulled out to a module. So this is things that are only, that have placements. Then there's the seed onlys. Oop. I don't even know what that was. Yeah, so this is where we want to make that fudge manual resets member. If there was a prior arc, merges with, I think merges with that maplog file. Placements, and the other file has placements. And we seed in the, that means carrying the seed forward. Well, it would be seed unknown for two chunks with unknown seed. And then there were a couple of exceptions from weird things. I'm not sure where those, yeah. So that's our seed with the exceptions based on some weird cases, which are few enough to just be coded in. So that is just translating, so path seed comes into content seed. So if it's a seed only, then that's the seed that's contained inside the file versus the one that's contained in the path. Okay, so merges with, they both have placements and they have the same seed. If there's a prior and we merge with prior, it's not a manual reset and we merge with the prior, else it's a merge break. So that still says prior. So it's not a manual reset. It's not prior, so it's going to go down to else. The first one is going to become merge break. Now, I think when we're doing this, we're really only looking at like index or file directory level information. The possible exception to that might be content seed. Path.match. So you read, add a reader path, content seed. I probably have a way to get the file that I use for the rest of the content. So I don't use, yeah. So this would not have access to the file.seed, which is what we use for merges with right now. So that file that is our first file would normally be done by comparing to the prior and the prior's seed. Content seed, path seed. Well, actually, it's a file. It's not going to have either of those. All right, and then we determine a break here, and we reset our current arc if a break happens. If there's a current arc, then that's the end of it, and we make a new one. and we throw that on there. We can still statefully modify it. Oh, this is a disabled case. Oh, this is for printing out the gap times. Okay. Some sort of little debugging thing. And then we bumped it up as the previous log file. If it's seed only, then that's a seed change. If it's placement and it has a seed in the path, then that thing will have a new seed, which will make it not merge, and we'll have a merge break. If it's seed only, what's the difference with the manual reset here? Because if it's a seed change... Oh, I wonder if there was a case where we had a seed change without a reset. Current arc seed equals log file dot seed. If it's a manual reset, then we update our seed to that. If it's not a manual reset, it's a seed only file, current arc ends. All right, this ends the previous current arc. If it's a seed only file and this time is a manual reset, I presume I did that for some good reason. That's going to be a pretty normal case that will have identified the seed only time as the log file time. Well, that's not actually advancing our arc break, and yet that seemed to be working fine. So given a whole history, there's nothing really wrong. I don't think there's any problem there. But this would be if it's not, if the log file timestamp of a seed that we got is not a manual reset, which for all the ones going forward, they would have been, I think. Because the seed gets originally written out at the time that it starts. I just didn't get published for a while. Oh yeah, and then we make a new arc with that seed. Like everything we've done since has had to go on manual resets until that seed gets published. Well, that's not a problem yet. So right now we count on having a history of all files to identify the breaks. And the complication is that seed files get published retroactively at the end of the period, at which point we potentially have to go back and update the seed information for, well, it's going to be one arc, but you know, as all of those files would have normally been going by. One way to do this is to set up a file mirror that has all the files, and we add some code to mirror up the new files and then continue as normal. Although we essentially have to maintain a file index because that's the level of information we're using. It doesn't mean you need to download all of the contents. But if all we need is the list of files, we could instead just maintain a list of files. To a certain degree, we already have that in some of our other files, although those only do the map files need to get processed. Those don't currently include any of the seed files. I have a complete image of that stuff, so I could sort of prepare the copy locally and then have it sort of update that. I think the one thing we have to take care of there is when we have a seed file, we will need to record the contents, since for any retrospective processing, we will not actually have the contents there. Just going to be, here's your file name. And we were doing placements, but just based on does it have a map log name. So even that would work with directory level information. So this is going through every file. This process is not skipping anything. So I could run it once on the real data, write out a list of all files. Maybe we could go in and trump that up a little bit to remove some recent files and see how it handles that. I don't have any recent seed breaks. I guess you could take that history back past an actual seed break and see what it did with that. Or remove a seed file. Well, there's so much stuff that had to get fixed up for that. But maybe I could like run it once on a couple different levels of dummy data. I don't necessarily need full histories. I'd like just need, seed file seed or maybe placement seed placement, something like that. Let's see. I don't have any resets in my current window. If I could maybe run this on my complete history. So I think I can do everything here except, well, other problem is this is like a common maplog file. It's assuming it has an actual file behind it. No. Yeah, and here's a file line count. I don't think this process uses that though. So if I wanted to use this kind of code, actually, probably what I would do is I'd have to have something that like read the index and updated my file list that I would use for this process. And then I would run this process off of just that digested data. I might be able to prepare a very similar interface to ease the transition, but it would not be like a maplog file. It would be like a maplog file record. Potentially, I'm debating whether I want to keep the path seed stuff, because that's like that would move the code around. So I could have every file store if it has a inherent seed. That could get awkward if I ever have to do any surgical edits again, which is kind of the whole point of doing this whole rewrite, but I guess I could either do that on a local copy with everything or do some file surgery. All right, so placements is entirely determined by, if we've got a virtual file, by its file name. All this stuff comes from path, and if it's sort of a virtual file, we'll just have like a file. We would have the path. We would have to record the effective seed in case it was a content seed, or at least the content seed. In order to do this, well, I mean, that's not, it's meta character. Yeah, so we need timestamp merges with seed approx log time, which is their path thing. Actually, timestamp and approx log time are both path things. Seed only. Seed. So I'm debating whether to record the seed, which in some cases is part of the path, or to only record where it's a content seed, and that will preserve, that will give you the seed only flag. Or I could just record the pre-digested seed from however it got it. In that case, I would still have to record if it's a seed-only file, though. So then that would be like a separate thing, or a separate item. So this process is currently based on a 100% history process. We build up all our arcs. In the process of that, we assign seeds. In the process of that, we may change seeds. Right now, one of the things that's happening is that when we take this through to our processing, we are updating our, I think it's our root time and our base time for files that are within the range. And that might actually be like some checks. I don't think that's going to affect, is it map, output map log? Do you even get the arcs? Is that the output, final placements? You don't directly get that either. So context update. That only processes that. Seeds. Okay. So that context goes into there. You have the list of seeds. We know what our priors are. So this is what's tracking the root base stuff. base equals, root equals. So we're not directly modifying this. But we're doing a context update before we process each file, and the context is root file and base file. Based on what happens here, so the first file that comes through here is getting a merge break. That's going into the context. That's going into this. You do not get any context information, so you should be fine. This, we're going to have to figure out what to do with you. So the only information that you're getting on a file-by-file basis is the root and the base. As that updates, for every file it updates, and some of the ones that have been damaged have kind of fallen off now. But I should be able to fix those up from local data. So for this process, the only things we're going to touch are files that are currently visible. L. So I'm going to have to rethink part of this. Because when a seed gets published, long after however many months of stuff has happened, in which we only keep 2 weeks, we are not going to then iterate over all of the intervening things, all of the intervening files that had this information, giving them a chance to update that. So updating some of that kind of like indexing information may have to move separately, because we're not necessarily going to be processing doing the data processing. Well, if root time, if base file changes, and I intentionally did this so that if we fixed up history, it would remerge things. That's when it's all streamlined. So right now we're only iterating over the files that are there. When a seed gets published, actually I guess root and base are the only things that would change. I may have to do something special to fix up the current situation. So I just edit that index file, and it did rewrite them, which I didn't think I saw it rewriting it, but I haven't been paying super close attention. But I think that's what it's supposed to do. Processed. Options root file, base time. Processed file. Did I have that update things? Because the key placements if your base changed, would have to get reprocessed. Log file path time. Options base file. Log file path and log file cache valid at. It's a log file thing. Some specific problem files there. Processed log file path for when it was processed versus our current time. Let's see, this file date. This is the timestamp of the file. That's a path-based date? Are you path? Oh, are you a baseline? Yeah. You are a parent class, so you're using the modified time of the file for local cache. Or that would be the index time for the live servers. That's when the actual file contents were changed versus when we processed it. And the root time is the same, and the base time is the same. Maybe we did reprocess, I just didn't notice it. Maybe because it was only one file that gets corrupted every time, I didn't notice it redoing that. But that should cause... So if I just update the file that has that information, it's not going to detect that as updated. Currently, it's only going to process files that I might just be able to re-upload those data files from my local copy. Because those have actually disappeared off the horizon now. So it can't just download or run them off of the public data. I guess that would be one argument for uploading my own copy. Of course, then I have to write a process that downloads a file, uploads a file, and I would still have to maintain some sort of index, because before I was using the web server index, I don't know that I would get something similar. The S3 bucket. So we've got our master break index. If we develop some sort of file list, we actually need all the files for that. Now, we need a list of all the files in order to go back and update them, but updating them here actually potentially means rereading the raw data and reapplying it to a base time. Can't just do that. Seed break, if it has placements and it merges, we just altogether skip it. Other than recording it as prior for the break detection. So if it's a seed, we use that for some stuff. If it, well, we have to know if it was already determined to be a break. So the advantage of keeping a file list, from which we infer many properties, would be that we could rewrite that algorithm at any time to reinterpret breaks, which was the purpose of redoing this. If I only keep the breaks, we would have a window if we ignored beginning of history because it could be off the edge of the event horizon. We would see seed. I don't know if we'd see seed changes in the current file list. What we would see now would be seed only things. You would see those appear, and actually those would not get deleted now, so then the new ones would stick around, actually. So if we had a list of arc breaks, it would normally look something like that. We would have our original start time. When a new file was published, it would update this stuff and add a new entry. This start time would be the timestamp contained in that seed. And the new start time, right, we actually don't end up recording this until a file gets published for that time. Then we would have the timestamp that would match a manual break, and we would start a new arc at that time, once a file existed. Current arc is nil, prior is nil. All right, this creates an arc for the first file. In a complete history, the first file is indeed a new arc. I think I might want to maintain a file list. Because otherwise, the process for doing this from scratch is different than the process for incrementally updating it. And I don't want to have that twice. Plus, the full reset process is more likely to rot from misuse. So even though it will be in some ways inefficient to reprocess everything, the incrementally updating the seed breaks makes me kind of nervous. We would have to say if there is a non-first file seed break, or if there is a seed change file, we would have to update that timestamp. We have to find that timestamp. We'd have to update its seed, maybe create it if it wasn't there. I'm actually almost a little bit weirded out by this. Because that seems to short circuit this. Oh, you know what? It probably used to be that the map log files were sorting before the map seed files, which we could probably see in the old index. Uh, 8354747. Yeah. So if it was a manual reset, it would have been hit here. We're assuming that would have actually happened. If the file isn't there, that won't have happened. So we have to know. We have to very explicitly know whether we've done a merge break at that time. This was saying, well, if this is true, both of these things are concurrently true. Do we just do a completely separate case for manual reset times? Like it'll duplicate a lot of this stuff. Actually, how much is duplicated here? It's actually hard to see here. So we've got umerge break. We've got seed fail. Merge break. If current arc. Yes, end. Current arc. Timestamp. Logfile.seed. But you do update the seed if we encounter this one. So this is the same, with the exception that we get our seed from here. So if I have my own list of all files, we can certainly sort them by file name. That will still be true. So this is a loop iterating over each file. We need to be able to handle both of those files. If we were to do it sparse, that file shows up, we would not do a break here. What could we say about that? We would be able to say that if it had happened on this file, the current arc would have a timestamp +1, and that's the thing they share. And if that was true, then it would be the matching thing for that file. If this were not the case, this would be a, what would this be? No, I would probably need a time-stamped index of arcs. Pivot it into a hash. I was trying to do sparse updates. Say for every file we've got, is this something that, do we definitely have a previous file and a next file indicates a break, or a seed file indicates a break? In which case, update the arc index with anything that is contained in there. So if we have seeds as a thing we keep around, and we just kind of update it whenever we get information on a break, and then maybe sort it. That does make that file potentially a fragile piece of data, much like the things I'm trying to repair now. I could keep this current process for a full rebuild of it. I guess my concern is that I would be writing and maintaining two pieces of code. There would be the full update, and there would be the incremental update. But I don't completely escape that if I do a file index, because I have to write code to maintain the file index. The nice thing about a file index is that if I ever have to do a complete rebuild of that, it's just iterate through my local files and list them. And then seeds can be, and if seeds can be redone from a full file list, then that part doesn't change. And for file information, we just take everything we're getting from the current file list, and we pretty much, doing some kind of like upsert on it. This file name, maybe this seed information. Since we don't have the seed contents for all the other files, then this is processing logs, which is really, this thing is just using a logs.each log file, which if that happens to be a different iterable with a interface matching object, would it really be the wiser? Now, I've already done a certain degree of abstraction. We've got the local file system cache, and we've got the A3 or S3. I'm wondering, could I actually instrument something that would make it a drop-in for this interface? I think one of the tricks there would be that we do have the one thing that reads the file. But that's just calling a function called open, or a method called open. Well, that's a different open. Content seed. And if we're doing a dummy thing, and actually I think if we inherit and override content seed, that might do it as well. So I might be able to instrument the file list cache as a kind of file system. Kind of a very, very simple like JSON file system or something that just sort of simulates a thing. So you would have, and I've got, so file system, yeah, file system local, read list, write. I don't even know if I use list anymore. Initialize. Now this is a write and read on an individual basis. So I would have to have some little hook that said, okay, I know we're doing a fake thing here. We are going to do some sort of flush operation to write it out. Then we could do some sort of like, well, we'd have to be very particular about how we did writes. So right now we are returning, we're passing a block. So it would have to be something that might sort of pass muster as a writable stream. Or we just only use the writes on that in a way that we just keep the content somewhere. I guess it's thought to be a stream-like thing. Huh. We would need a little process that would just iterate through log files, and it would have to check if they were seeds and read the contents if they were. I don't know what else to call it. File system, file list, file system fake, file system static file. And the really crazy thing is it would probably have to use a file system itself to get its backing file. Or maybe we use that just to give it the thing it needs. File system S3 probably has a different structure. Yeah, you've got bucket client. So you would have like a backing file system. I'm not sure what to call that. Is a file system. Are we going to follow the file system? And it's going to have a path that we save this stuff at. Now, path is a word looks like we use elsewhere. So you would get a backing file system and a backing path. Which would be, what is going to be by default? And what am I normally initializing these with? I'd put dir out dir bucket. So you're in map public. So then file system local. This is going to be server specific. So that would end up being part of the backing path, I guess. Yeah, PL server code. So maybe this isn't the defaultable thing. All right, so this is our public interface. And I actually don't know that list makes any sense on this at all. Well, this is sort of a virtual list of files. So that would pretty much just be itself. Map entry, not prefix. Okay, so that's a range, right, to get rid of dot and dot dot. This itself might need its own little test. Well, there's my file system list test. So ensure the path exists. Right to if it's there. I think that's an IO. I think there's a way to do like a string IO. Oh, I guess we're going to have some sort of store. This will be a hash because it will be paths to potential contents, I guess, for use. So file path, ensure that exists. I might have to do some sort of trumped up I/O here. Is that like a string I/O? String IO.new. So that, I think that would then look an awful lot like this. Now file is a block that gets that thing. Would that be like... It's been a while since I did this. If file.exist. So it would only exist by doing that until we get to saving and loading. We're going to have something there to identify that it's a file that exists, which is really all we're expecting in most cases. If it's writing, then we're overwriting. Do we need a file path there? Well, the interface is giving it a subpath. See, so this is returning a list. Is it, no, it's select in Ruby. Although, what does that give you in a hash? And exit 1.3. So that, well, if it gives you keys, you can get the values. Now, I also didn't consider, does it give you anything else? I could probably do like args or something. Okay, so that can do, yeah, it does pairs, and very often when doing each, you do each pair, which works out nicely, which just looks nicer, but doesn't function differently in a hash. And we're going to use path. We're going to use file path. This is listing, so we actually don't need the contents here. Da -ba -da -ba -da -ba 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 -ba. This should be a return. It should select nothing. And we are wanting to know if file name, I think there's like a starts with. I don't know if it's start with or starts with, or what variation they've used. Start with. One of the prefixes. Well, we only have one. That should implicitly return. Sign but not use variable file path. Did I not use the right thing here? Yep. Oh, this was doing output dir, which we don't care about. So this is just path. Actually, in fact, file path doesn't matter here, because this is... just our local path, and then that is when we get to, we haven't got to saving yet. Read could potentially initiate that. So the only thing we could really do right now is check that the interface doesn't totally break. And, oh, well, I need a file system for you. File system, backing path. This will end up being in... I could put this down, but I think that's the cache. We're already kind of here. So we'd expect there to be nothing there because we haven't done saving yet. But we could do... It just is it. I forget how I normally do this. I think if we do probably f.write works. As for one line that I could use braces. And I got a b.text. And then we should be able to do a p foo.list. And we should be able to do a p foo.read. Actually, no, it's not p foo.read. It is p f dot. Is it read? Met process 30. List wrong number of. Oh, right. You had a path, which I didn't want to put a path in here. A.text string IO. So I presume that blank string is this. So the read-write thing didn't work. So get string, read lines. Yeah, there is read and write. See, IO read, which is not a link. Let's see. I think we've got. I'm not seeing the append operators in here. I think I mostly use gets for reading. What am I doing for writing stuff? Writer.write. Well, that's something. That's a different interface. What about just some of these guys? File system.read, do f.read. File system.write, f, we do append here, for all that matters. I wonder if maybe it's not, maybe read doesn't return a straight up string. It does return something that isn't nil. Oh, I wonder if I have to, like, rewind it? I guess this would be an open operation. Assuming that something exists, which right now can only exist through that. Okay, so those operations. This is selecting out of here. This is more of a map, but we kind of have to do both. So map must work differently than select. Map gives you a pair. Yeah. Is a different thing. No. So is that different if I explicitly ask for the other part? Yes. And we saw that you would accept that. So I need to make sure that we are loaded from backing store if such a thing exists. Well, I guess I have to write it first. There's nothing to load right now. And then the specific to this version. I guess I could actually have that in the calls to read and write. What I wouldn't be able to do then is do a lazy read. So we have files. We need to see right now. I guess I don't technically need to have string IOs for all of this. I could have strings and then convert them to string IOs as needed. We're only going to read and write the seed files, which are a minority of files. I was thinking, well, we're going to go through and read them all anyway. We're not actually going to read and write most of the files. Although we do have to do a dummy write on when adding a file. Or, yeah, so... what do I think about this interface? It was that when I'm going... well, I need this interface. I think mostly for the read-only side. So we normally don't write maploc files. So I could just do this to take a hash. I would still need some place to read and write a JSON file, though. But where I'm explicitly doing maintenance of these files, I don't have to go through all those gyrations. If we just treat it as file name content, and maybe this even did have methods to, let's see, would it have methods to read and write? Or would that be something else? That's my file system JSON if it's not managing the file. Because I think for the file list maintenance, this is just going to get kind of weird, especially where I'm going to do write file and then not do anything for the ones that are placement only. I guess there'll just be an empty string IO. But for that process, I'm just going to want to go through and check, well, does it exist? If it does, it's probably fine. And where it doesn't, we copy it over, and if it's a seed file, we copy the contents. Yeah, is file system the right interface for this? We use file systems. File system read. Output final placements. Yes, this is for files I read and write. Although Maplog Cache is what I'm emulating, and company. You do assume a local file system. Yeah, nor do you not use S3. It just has each log file. Yeah, I think this is the wrong... Yeah, this doesn't even use a file system. I'm at the wrong layer of abstraction here. So this is already a Maplog cache as in a directory of files. This would be... a Maplog list. Maplog file. Now this would be a two-step process. Oh. Yeah, your map process for each server, which is going to be a little bit awkward. Right now we only go through these by each, so you'd have to have some sort of custom method to say do it for this server. So we actually are doing a multiple iteration here. So yeah, so that would be a kind of a separate thing. Oh, but you'd be using a file system to write your raw file. So if we have a backing story, you would have that information, which we can ignore for now. Well, we end up passing information, which is just directory information, but it's just going to be a file. Each would be, well, we're going to have some sort of, this is where our files are. We have after, yeah, we have that. dir.for each. Longs dot oh, it's a log list. Would that be one file per server then? To keep it a simple hash. Or I could just have one list for all of them. We already sort of have a file list in the processed file, but it doesn't include the seeds, which is kind of what we need. So we have to actually get the file list into this. We need to that's a top level DIRs of that. Logs get a directory within that. Maybe I end up initializing this per. Actually, we just have to somehow construct the file path from that. We've already got placement path and map log path. So that would be what? Just files dot select. But this is directories. So this might not be anything then. It's already said that map needed the double, or it's going to do. Does logs.new need both? It's not going to have direct access to the contents. Oh, now logs is itself the directory. Yeah, so each might not even be the right interface for you. It's like, is there even a server list at that point? Not directly in you, I don't think. Because you were based on a directory, so you're gonna be like the entire thing. And you've got an each. And you might get past a file. Now you see your we're going to get files somehow. And that just is. And then your each. Log file.new, which is a map log file, which is where it gets more interesting. You're just an each. But you are doing yield. Superpath might be okay. File path. Maybe we should just call it file path. Oh no, path isn't necessarily saved. So we would actually... Or is it? Add a reader path. So that is saved. And then open. Oh, this is for a file. When the index was updated. This is probably going to be... What is Maplog server use for that? Log file. You get a date from log date Maplog server extract path list, which that there, which is parsed from the HTML. We would have a date that we wrote it in there. If we're building this up from something, we could be copying dates, but then our structure is not just file contents. We actually have to keep track of some attributes. You've got some cached contents in case we have to refer to it multiple times. Files.each, blah, 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 blah. Maybe it doesn't even matter if this is a hash. Well, it would matter when you're trying to update it. We do want to list it in sorted order, though. Which means we want to process it array-wise. Yeah, the interface is getting me all crosswired here. Because really we want a list of files that gets updated as we get new files. So we don't need the entire file, we just kind of need the file name and maybe the seed value. What we did learn here is that we need the date. Well, a date. We could go with the timestamp date. Were an updated file to cross our path, though, we would be able to update that date and have things react to it. So is our file list an ordered array of files which we're certainly going to want to iterate in an ordered fashion. Or is it a hash of file name, which I guess we're going to need named attributes, unless we do presumed order positional arrays. Or we could do some little object for them. And we've already kind of got an object here. If I had this thing do all the file management, I haven't made this private yet, so you could still access it that way. And it would be a question of, so then that would let you do this kind of thing. And that would just be your storage. This is doing yield. It's like from what? Well, it would actually be a file of those. This is only for local access. Oh, does file path default to path? The file path was only used for opening this file. And then this open is actually going to look a little bit more like this. What do I actually want you to look like? Huh. Does logs even make sense? Server is a thing we sometimes use in current interfaces. But really all we care about is logs.each here. So this could just be an array of these things. So if I could have this, what? You eventually need a way to load, to write, to assert new information about a file. We don't currently need this. It was just kind of interface matching. Is it a hash or is it an array? In a typical run, we're going to iterate all of them on seed break in order. And we are going to assert the identity of 14 of them. So either I store it as a hash, and then we have easy lookups for all of those updates, which I guess when I'm running it locally, it will have to go through and re-update all of the files in the index, just because we need that for the other version. So that would be a whole lot of searching if it wasn't indexed. And then when we need to each through them, we would have to take that to an array and sort it by file name. Which, since it includes timestamp, well, should pretty much sort in that order. Or we have to have it set up such that we have a method to get a matching file for such and such path, which would involve a search through set array. If I am storing this as log files, we already have the path as an attribute. So for the sake of not duplicating that, I might want to go with an array. So I don't think this is going to be a significant difference either way. This is not going to be due. This actually be files each. In order to pass that on, we would actually do that. And then this will end up with like load and save and stuff. And there's no actual log files yet. And we've got this files thing here. So if we just deal with asserting existence of a local file, logs, assuming this is created for a particular server, and loaded and saved there, you would have something like add check, assert, since it's an array. Oh, All right, we'll deal with sorted in a little bit. Because we either have to sort every time we go through here or maintain it while we're adding. Which, for the number of entries, maybe we're better off just sorting. We first have to determine if it exists. It's either going to be array or enumerable. Might just be enumerable. Because I'm well, that one I'm debatable on. I could use the file stamp date for it. But I am essentially kind of caching information from another source. So I thought it might be good to save that original date in case a updated file did come through when we would update it and then things would see that it had a new date and that might affect any necessary reprocessing. There's not a whole lot of precedent for that. Not with maplog files. I also was doing some processing of lifelog files, which do get like copied when they're like partially written. and then the next day they come through and you get the entire file. So even though this isn't processing those files, I'm still thinking about this in terms of, well, if we had a partial update and then a further update, you'd want to reprocess it. So as we go through and check the currently available files, I want to continue resetting the date so that if we get an updated date, we'll say, oh, well, we're gonna update our information on this thing and save that out. So this is going to be what? Member? Include, well, it's going to be include by attribute. It's present in self. Yeah, just present. So this might be like, I don't even care if it's a select. It's just an if any. Do we have an reference to enumerable here? If any object block, we should be able to pass a symbol of a member. Well, no, because we're checking for the value of an attribute, so it's still going to be a block. If I'm not maintaining this in sorted order, I'm not getting a whole lot of value from keeping it as an array. Oh, actually, if it exists, I need to find it in order to update it. So it's not just an any. I actually have to find it. But we're assuming there's we're assuming uniqueness. That's actually might be another argument for hash. Even though it duplicates the path. However, this would have to be like a 2A and a sort. Is it sort by? Using a set generated by mapping the values to the given block. Path. So now, actually, yes, any would it probably be hashes are probably enumerable. This is just a lookup now. If files path. Do we do a full assert on this and replace it? If it's an existing seed file with a not updated date, well, I guess our previous process would have reread the seed contents. That's one I really don't expect to change. Maybe this isn't necessarily a good method here. Because if it exists and the date is not newer, then I don't need to read the contents to update my copy. This presumes we've already done that. This might be a better place to look at the code that's going to use this, which we've not. Well, looking at this code has been useful in the sense that we need to have the date. The code that's going to use this might tell us something more about the interface we want here. So this is currently useless because we have no way to create these. So this is the loop that's going to be using, it's going to get past this thing. We want things that satisfy this interface. Which I might need to override a few things there. But there's going to be a separate process. See, this thing takes logs and... I guess you could actually take that. It's making it very explicitly to its purpose. That would be like a update from other logs. So you would do a source file. And then we could directly check by whatever means we wanted to. If files... Right, files... source file dot path. First of all, does it exist? If it doesn't exist, then we're in straight up new file territory. And now here's an interesting question. Could we actually rewrite this to take another log file as its constructor argument? Because right now we're only making new ones. Unless I said that when updating this, we're just going to replace everything. So if source file.date is newer than files, I also want to get a reference to that. Then the date and the contents need to be updated. Now, these were not writable attributes, which is an argument for recreation. And if we're recreating it, we're once again going to take all the source file attributes and copy them. I'm doing pretty good, although I'm getting a little thirsty. And I keep getting tied up in this and not getting more water, which I should really do. So sorry to immediately break on you, but I really should be drinking.
Wow.
But going down, you're basically flying.
What the hell? That was interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of hugging the ceiling here.
Welcome back, everybody. I gotta remember to unmute myself. Yep.
I do, however, want to. Well.
I was fast.
That was fast. I think I saw Ada go to electrical, but I don't know.
That was reaching electrical. I was about to go in and turn on the lights
Like,
back on as well. I didn't see
person
anybody else near me.
The first person I saw was Boogie.
Yellow says,
Also, he's typing. Just ain't no fam that bro. I was a bit focused in my pants because I was getting chased and then the lights went off, so I got a bit spooked.
I don't know. You'll have to. Um. Okay, so we want educated people, but I'm not seeing. Okay. Let's look at all. Show me all. Is this no filtering? Okay, so there we go. And I want to see my educated school display all university. No, I want to see educated school.
Chronos.
We got a.
Bye, Chronos.
We have a slight security issue here.
What?
Sunlight?
Yeah, the die.
Oh,
Our spawn. No, our spawn. I'm actually quite curious what much.
We're gonna die of something.
That's gonna be a problem now.
Wait, I'll fix it. I'll fix it. I'm gonna use barriers to delete the block.
That's a small problem.
Let's use barriers to.
I can't believe it.
You might want to clip this, but that's a problem.
Eric, do you think we should just not do things or?
Constructed.
Oh no, I think we should.
Oh no, Danger can't. Danger got kicked.
I'm in the lobby and no longer receiving missiles.
Oh. That's because you're not on a team. You got kicked because this.
Hi, Stormy, how you doing, friend?
Do/join.
Oh. Please help me.
/TP here, Danger Mage. /TP.
And we're back. Yeah, I was hoping there'd be at least an initial quick fix for this. I'm probably overcomplicating the path to doing this, but maybe this is something I should just kind of rewrite, and it could have been done faster. But it's been a while since I dug into this, and since this is a little bit of a complicated process, I didn't want to have to rewrite all this stuff. So we were saying that since anytime we update this, we're going to be doing everything from the source file, we could actually just write this to take some other log file as its source and grab that stuff. So we don't have to pull it out every time. Oh. Do random source files support contents, though? I only plan to use this with seed files. So maybe instead of treating this as a dummy file interface, I should be treating this as actual for seed files only. In which case it would just be seed. Now our open Now what is the file.seed in a double seed case? How was I storing that? Okay, that's array, content seed, path seed, array, array, array. So that is a little bit different. That's going to affect how we store some things. Well, doesn't affect that. Open. Do we need to support open? If we update this to return... So that'll be seed, which will take care of seed, so it will never necessarily call content seed. Things we have to watch out for are... That's going to get from path. That's going to get that from path. What's in there? I can never call breakpoints. So I might not need that. And then we'll see if anything shows up, but it would be something like this if we did need to support that interface. And I might have to do something to like fudge up the seed if that happens. So we rewrite that in the case that it's a newer file. Oh, I just called this update from another log set. That will get us an in-memory copy of it, from which we would potentially be able to run that stuff. All right, so this thing will probably get deleted. Is a maplog list, which maplog cache that we're currently using. So that was used down there. No. Yeah, it doesn't actually depend on that stuff, I don't think. Maplog list. There is no servers for this one right now. This could actually be initialized. No, because there's also the one where you just load the cache. So that's probably going to have a paths argument of some sort to it. Oh. This would actually happen for each of these. Having done that, and I'll save this a little bit. Now, yeah, we were iterating this multiple times. We're being lazy and exposing everything. Okay, well, that did something all right. Right, and we're currently testing on the shortened file set. None of these will have seeds in them. Back at the beginning of all this, seeds were more common because they happen every time. Yes, there's the singular seed. So it is writing something in there. In order to test update behavior, well, there's two things to here. One is that we have a list. which was designed to be a stand-in for logs here. Oh, we put an exit on it. Undefined method path for array. That process 38. Okay, that's, let's see. Oh, and sort by. Okay, yep, we've not tested this before. 2A. Does hash 2A not do what I... Oh, you'd have to be specifically say values. That would probably do pairs. That used to be printing everything out, didn't it? But... did that actually come from here? Or from the maplog file itself? That kind of got left around. This would only be a cache. One of these had a print in it. It might have been server, though, which we shouldn't be hitting a server here. So that's a merge break where we expected it, but we're not actually seeing the rest of the files. Was that from a later part in the process? Ah, it was from like context update or something. Okay, so it reads that fine. It reads the entire history fine. So we need a way to persist this and to reload it. This is pretty much, let's see. So indexing it is nice for this. It's going to be duplication of data in a persistent file. And then we could rebuild the hash. So I think I do things very similar to this in my outputs. Spans, that's effectively caching. And then is there like a write spans or something? Well, it's going to be a file system dot write operation. We hit a checkpoint. When we're satisfied with that stuff. Let's see, so this is going, well, yeah, this is going to iterate through the entire list of available files and... oh. No, we're not writing contents, we're only writing seeds if seeds are available. So that will probably work. You'd have to lazy load like that. Well, no, we're going to initialize this. It's going to have a backing store, and, well, if we initialize it, it would have to save the file system to write it back out, or I would have to re-provide the file system and the path. Although you get initialized with path information to do what you do. So you're probably just assuming nil, aren't you? Read. And this is building an index. So it's kind of exactly the same thing. You're building a span path because that knows something about where we store that relative to the output path. Which we're not really doing here. It's just got a path, which we need to save. We need to save both of these things. Do I use... Not directly. That could be a concern, though. What is it? What is this file? JSON.parse. And there's our list. So this is going to be, so this, however, was raw data structures. And here's where that whole copy the source thing runs into trouble. Because if we use, also on the reads on the right side, because we can't just dump a raw Ruby structure out. So at iteration time, we need to present a work-alike interface. At this level, we kind of know what we're saving and what it's going to look like, although we could treat that as a pure serialization concern. Well, we are kind of, yeah, this is just a list. We're completely reconstructing this thing, so that sort of makes sense there. We have to have a constructor that takes raw attributes to do that with these as the internal objects. So probably what we have to do is we kind of need two constructors. I don't even know if copying this makes sense. We have to have path date seed. And then we have to have, since we do this twice, This is going to be a class method. So you would do that. And then you can do list. We're talking about information about a file. Going to be indexing files, not fleas. Probably going to be coming out as a string, depending on what parses JSON. I guess I gotta have like a from hash, but right now I don't have to do this once. And then our serialization is going to be equally painful. When we checkpointed these, it was just values. It was writing these out sorted, but it had to convert them into a hash, and then that was just a straight up raw data structure itself. So in this thing, let's see. I could manually write a file to read here. I guess I should have actually done writing the file first. This isn't necessarily going to be checkpoint. I don't necessarily have a better name for it. What I could, it would be convenient to have a serialize on this. So we've got a path. We've got a date, and I might have to look at how I'm serializing these things. Like date. Seed, I mean, I think array will serialize okay. That takes care of individual ones. Let's see, each. Kind of effectively creates the array of interest as an intermediate value. Although it's going to, well, values is kind of a copy sort by, and then it generates off of that. So we take the array, we map that to each individual item, do its hash. And that's that. We saved our file system. We saved our path. We're going to write that to a file. Oop. Did something random again. Oop. Yeah, I'm going to use you in a little bit. I don't think I was using JSON previously in here, so it's just JSON. All right, so in order to see any results, let's see, you're gonna need a bunch more arguments. You need a path. We're going to have to ask it to write. Epilogues log file new. List path. We've got a file system. Although the format of these is path file system. So it's going to be a lot like these. No. And so even just that, well, this one, it should parse nothing, get us nothing. And it's going to update. Then it is going to checkpoint. What I don't have is like a thing that's missing a few entries but maybe we can just do some file surgery if this actually writes. Find the file system. Oh, I probably never, yep. Get ourselves some convenience variables here. Convenience methods, I guess. Okay, initially 0, not unexpected. From source for log file, oh. Initialize is a method called myNew. If you want a normal class method, you have to declare it on the class. Okay, so that ran through everything. If everything worked, we got a file list with stuff in it. Okay, so my raw date in most cases. Well, no, that is it's going to be a file system timestamp or some sort of timestamp from a web index. So that's reasonable. I'm not super thrilled with the completely empty seeds. How JSON's formatting that. Yeah, we got 2 of them for there. All right, so now, well, we got a lot of spam. Maybe I should figure out where that's, oh, I've got lots of spam from places. See, okay, actually, yeah, this is the seed break part. So 0 to 484 logs. Yeah. And this is like a later stage. That's that. This is like isRoot. All right, so if we get an incremental update only, okay. Comparison of time with string. Right, so when we load this back, which we had not loaded it back before, or we hadn't done anything with it, I guess. When we load it back, so JSON generate new to turn that into a string. Do I read back timestamps from any of my other stuff? Wait, I might have this open. There's seeds. That's recording starts as timestamps. Maxine, thanks for the follow. Just FYI, this is not one of my usual stream times, but stuff needs to get fixed. Okay, so that is doing this in this is doing this in timestamps as well, including the times we process stuff at. Which I believe is what we're doing there. So how are we handling that? As one of the outputs, or both of the outputs. Root time. So there is a timestamp. So I was simply using the date field actually was a timestamp, so I said, okay, that's fine. But we're writing the code to read and write this. We just have to remove that file, because the things that are there would not be compatible if we did that transformation. So 2H would write it, and it's until we run it again. But how do we? Yeah, so those are mostly talking within the times there. Valid at time, root time, base time, root time, time.now.2i. So that's for an actual clock time. Date, I guess the date would be today. Okay, for this I might also have to require date. But it did appear to be a date object. Okay, undefined 2i. So it would have to be date.to. It's have to be today, right? Yeah. .to time.2i. To get a comparable value. And when we were getting dates from like weblog cache, it's just file mtime, which is, well, is that a time or is that a date? That chorus stand lib. Oh, no, but it actually is a time. So that was kind of the wrong object anyway. But it was in the date field, because it's like file date. So 2i, it... But it ended up as a data object. To time, maybe it just looked like a data object because it had all a year and stuff. And then coming back, where are we? In output. Processed. I think I only ever had to compare times? If it even compared them. Log file valid at. Hey, Sarah King, how's it going? Date.2i. So you were assuming your date is also a timestamp if it's calling 2i on it. And the way we go back is time.at. That looks about right. We're just making a slightly stronger case for having some sort of importer function. All right, so our initial case is we import all the things. And no, not data server. That's the cache. Too many windows. .62 kilobytes because we're now storing numbers instead of strings. And this is going to get, well, this is going to initialize me with the timestamps of all of my local files, which might not be the same as, well, as long as they're older, I think it'll be fine. Maybe something will end up getting reprocessed because of differential processing times. They'll also go through and update the ones there from the ones it can get. They'll get most of the recent ones. Okay, that is a shorter list, 484, 484. So it added things to an empty list. Well, I guess we don't know that it updated anything really. The way the code's written, it should. If we were to no, that was our other copies. Did I leave this open? No. This should be in sorted order. So the things it's getting, well, we're mostly concerned with the sort of incremental ordinary process here. So if we had, actually, we'd normally be concerned about the daily updates, which are only one missing. So we should see 483, 484, and okay, that updated the file. That's the date, that's the actual file, 2362977. That one got processed. It's not, doesn't represent any kind of breaks. We've still got this. So this process, so this is a separate determination of root. So the I think we need this information to handle when new seeds are published. But it's not the whole story. Because we are now in a context where we have a complete picture. This time is not here. And because it's the first file in the list, it is still coming up as root. This is probably, well, context got the seeds, that's for sure. But it's still going along log file by log file. Seeds, prior log file, prior arc, root, yeah, that's tracking our root and our base. So given an update, well, we're tracking prior log file, prior arc. So to use this code unmodified, I might have to fake it and go through my entire file list. If arc equals prior arc, which also won't be true, or there was a bugged timestamp, or a bugged file, and there was a prior log file and it merges with, which is something we don't, information we don't have, but all those ones in the past should be pretty much done. That was partially in case we ever had to do some fix-ups. Yeah, okay, so here's merges with is root. That is from context, which is providing these things, which actually might actually just be here. We're not passing context, it's just tracking this information. And to actually go back and fix some of the damaged stuff, I actually would have to... Oh, also, question. Now you're not getting seeds, so is seeds writing that out itself? Yep. Okay, I think we ran this on map fake, and we do have a complete history. So that fixes the seed file, which I think would fix viewing of prior arcs on the map. So now the only problem is that we're going through and writing zeros to some of the chunk files. And we were based on updating this every time, and this was partially because we have the seeds published after the fact, but that shouldn't, well, that alone should not change root file base file. If there was an apocalypse or something, and we were a little late getting to the map update for the break, we might need to reprocess. We need to reprocess these. The older ones really should be fine, but how do we determine that? If it's prior arc and prior log file and it merges, then it's fine based on the prior. If it's a root, we reset our root. This is a log file. So these are actual files. What do we need? Do we need anything besides timestamps from these? Also, log file dot timestamp merges with. We have to check what that needs. Path. That's informational. And what do you need? Root file, options root file, timestamp, base file.path. Well, we've got that. Base time. Well, okay, base time using base file. It's path. It's using that path to look up the span information from the base file. Okay. So I think all of that information could be provided by our file list. What circumstances would we actually need to reprocess that entire list? Let's see, so base time is going to be nil if we don't have a base file, which is effectively going to make it 0, which is going to make it root. Yeah, base time or 0. So we can't just ignore it. Now we don't need to reprocess that other file that's hanging there on the precipice. It's just we've always gone through everything in case a root time or a base time changed to make sure we updated them to account for new information. Oh, and look at the... No, this is saying if equals. Which, if that changed, it would not be equal, so it would go through some of this. It would be nice if there were a path that would fix up the current zeros we've got. I could just go through and patch that manually if I can get it to stop writing them. Right now, I think the path which updates these attributes goes through, actually goes through this stuff. There's base time. And which part was getting messed up? I think the map logs were fine, because they don't actually depend on that context. All right, so this is what healthy ones should look like. And then back here a little bit, when we get to our 2-week event horizon, What, or did it already fix itself? Well, I've been running this with full data. I might have to... I've made copies of this. I might have to swap in the damn... Yeah, this is not the live one. And see if that would fix it. I don't think it will. But it does have the base times there. The problem would be if it had to do any data updates. And those files were not available. If it said, oh, my base changed, I should rewrite that. And these are files that have all fallen off the edge. Or, well, some of them have fallen off the edge. So, we've got our backup copy. The other problem is this might change a bunch of timestamps. But I've got file writing for 90% of it turned off right now. Which is going to include writing out those intermediate files. So I'll need to stub deeper into that. Okay, so it's currently on fake. We've got the entire list. That I don't think will have done anything. Yeah. All right, so to test if this writes anything out, you would have to write. But I would want to shut down writing some of the things. I forget if spans were damaged. You do have base times. Yeah, spans were damaged too. That was a copy from... That would have been a copy of that, which was updated recently. What I don't necessarily need you doing is rewriting any actual data on me. Because this data set is not damaged. So that's processed. That spans. Let's write index. That's some fairly detailed stuff. That's going to be data file index. Yeah, I think that we don't need to worry about you. This is more useful when I was doing very, very small sets of things. I think what I'd be really interested in here is which ones I wrote. Right, because these things actually produced the progress bars. So we want to say, what? This is, oh. Is this where those paths are coming from, meaning we're actually going into here and having to update something? And does that mean I've been doing too much work all along? Okay, so it's still reading. So that's 977. Wait, 236, 2977. That's only the most recent one. Interesting. Oh, I might have actually... No, because it's only my local copies. But I may have grabbed... This would have to be because I think there's actually a new file published and I have not fetched my local files, whereas this was off of live, which may have done something with that. So we did nothing. We did not do a full process on any of those other sections, even though their roots may have changed. And we've still got base time zeros here. So it did not detect that we now have information. Well, these are not the files that are being processed right now because they've fallen off the edge. This is probably a, just because I started before it was published, or right as it was published-ish for the new one. Although, what did you write that out as? Actual values. Wait, but base time is yourself? And root time is the base of our data. So actually, yeah, oh, yeah, all these root times are going to be kind of, I guess those get updated every day or something. Because that comes from just the list of files we're processing. So I haven't really changed that yet. Okay. Start and base. Yeah, no, base is fine. It's root that goes all the way back. Okay, base could just be the previous one. Our concern is the base zeros. So all of that's coming through here. And if I did update these, it would rerun some of the files that we no longer have direct access to the files. Which brings me back to either patch it or use a mirror. But I haven't actually fixed this giving me wrong values for you. So, one way to do this if I ran through all of the files and just didn't do this if there wasn't a file there, that would fix the information rolling forward. But it's two separate iterations, really. Huh. Well, I thought it was a nice solution to separate this context out. It's kind of a separate object. I don't have to be constantly like updating the log files themselves. But now that's getting awkward because I can't like go through the log files with all of the information and update them or something. Now there is this step where we go through, we update our master list with the new list. There's some correlation going on there. But what we've had so far is a very procedural process. I think this might be a good problem to sleep on. Especially since I'm kind of trying to take a vacation right now. And it's getting to be about dinner time. Well, this could be a big picture design thing. Now there is always the full mirror. That would allow you to reprocess things at any time. That would kind of mean that if I could at least get things straightened out, I would be able to have the standard process run to update things. I'd kind of like just not to have to settle that up. Another thing I have to think about is how do I fix the standard process? Because right now it's the edge of the horizon that's messing things up. And then is there an easy way to automate the fix, or do I just bring up the two files and compare them to fill in the messed up values? Well, if it reprocessed the files when it made it 0, then that would not be good. Because then those would have to be reprocessed or just re-uploaded from my data. All right, so this is right now. Okay, well, it's an update to library except for using this stuff. Assuming that this sticks once we take into account the other stuff. So I'm not sure this is commit quality yet. It solved one of the problems. It's not necessarily bad to have code checkpoints, but we're going to have a lot of temporary stuff to clean up. The other thing I was looking at is, well, that's a little bit relevant. So we have a process. So we have a file list cache that fixes seeds.json. Base root is defined while iterating available files. And I guess I could just make some sort of look aside for like base and root for every file. And that might be able to use the entire history list. I have to make sure that merges with would work, but I think it would. Well, iterating interesting. And that's a very inline process right now. Secondary problem to that is that even if we fix base root for available files, the damaged entries no longer have available files, at which place we're back to we need to have a mirror or something, or I upload it myself. So presumably if I reran this with all files available, it would be able to fix up the indexes. But I can't just do that on that server without making a mirror somewhere. While iterating available files, so that means we don't currently have any place to store that information from a separate iteration, including all the files. If we iterated all of the files, we'd have to have some way to identify ones that were available. We have to add some sort of log file, maplog attribute that would say, can we actually do this? That would get the sequencing right. But as history grows, that process everything is looking not so great as well. So maybe I have to look at sort of like keeping around better information so that I can say, well, this file is new. We haven't seen it before. Its base file is the previous file, and its root is whatever that root was if we haven't seen a new one. Oh, but then there's the problem of a seed file gets published and you have to go back and fix it. Which is kind of what bit us here, is because it looked like we have a seed 0, and then it tried to kind of go back and fix it. Or a root 0. Can't account for late publishing of root seeds. I guess roots is really only what's concerned here. What's at issue here. So hopefully I'll get some background processing done on that on sometime when I feel like it. I can come back and actually try and find a solution for this. But I'm not going to push it real hard now. So that's it. This has not been a regularly scheduled stream, but thanks for watching. Actually, yeah, schedules in a minute. I will, however, see if I have anything to recommend right now. Now, I'm not normally doing coding stuff right now. I'm not normally looking for coding people right now. I'll see if I've got anything that I recognize. And that is my normal schedule. I might actually be thinking about some changes over the next week. Well, that's what things normally look like. Okay, so I've got a little bit of, got some game stuff, I've got some game stuff. We've got like maybe some editor extensions. All right, well, I see somebody doing some Ludum Dare games. I don't know if they're going to be getting into any code on that. I mean, a lot of times those are open source. You can look at it, but it might just be playing them. And presumably this is someone who developed their own game as well. So for say it's cool to hang out. Mark Magnus is looking at some of the Linux Ludum Dare entries. And that's someplace cool to hang out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Goodbye and until next time.